So let's talk about a game that was set out to be a masterpiece and one of the greatest games of this generation, really, and looked like it was going to be at some point. So I'm just going to talk about it from a perspective as a normal gamer. I'm not a pro reviewer. I don't do anything. I just put stuff on my channel. So this will be a really honest review as someone that was just as hyped as everyone else to play this game. And from a game perspective, it is a masterpiece of a game, from gameplay to graphics to the scale of the linear environment. All of that stuff is absolutely perfect, and that bit is a masterpiece. And to some extent, I mean, I think the first 10 hours of gameplay was still setting out to be the perfect game and the perfect story. I can get why people were upset with what happened. If you haven't seen it, I'm not going to spoil it. But you'll know from the first game that was kind of coming and expected anyway. The problem is from 10 hours into the game, where for some strange reason Naughty Dog have they force you into doing stuff that you just don't want to do. Like for the first 3 hours, and this is the big reason I think Sony didn't let any reviewers put the second half of the game in, because this is where the problem kind of starts. The first 3 hours of that 10 hours, at that point I was kind of just like, I just don't want to play any further from this point, because there's a point where we just don't care about this, and it's just forced for 10 hours to be dragged out. And that's kind of, it's just, I don't get why they put that in. I get what they were trying to do, but it just doesn't work. And once you get past that point, again, after those 10 hours, becomes a really, really good game again. It's kind of spoiled to some extent from that 10 hours, but I think that 10 hours of that second half of the game, that could have been really shortened if they just shortened it to the major plot of, well, this is the reasoning, and this is why this happened, and then skip back to what we was playing in the first half of the game. I think that would have been acceptable. And to the ending, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's obviously not what everyone would expect to happen from a fictional character and a fictional story. But I mean, I didn't think it was awful. It was disappointing, but it wasn't awful. But it kind of just spoils the whole plot, really, because the whole, I mean, maybe it wouldn't have been as bad if the first 10 hours of the game and what goes on with the story carried on through the whole game, rather than, skip to the second half of the game. I think that kind of spoiled it a bit. And I think maybe, like, I know it's a linear game and you got one story, but they should have put an option into, pick to do this or to do that. Of the two, you kind of have alternate endings. I mean, how difficult is that to put in a game? I don't suppose it's too difficult to put, two options of an ending, and you pick the ending. That would have saved so much negative press if you could pick what you had to do. And you'll see if you haven't played it, when you see the ending, or I'm sure you've probably seen the spoilers online. I do wonder what would have happened if the spoilers never went out and no one saw any spoilers or anything. I kind of guess, I guess it probably would have been the same, because I see what Naughty Dog had kind of set out to do, but it didn't work. It's kind of mixed. You either love it or you hate it. I didn't think it was too bad. I can see like what the point of it was, but I don't think it 100% does not deserve the zeros. No chance at all, because maybe if that was a film, yeah, 0, but as a game, I mean, this is a game. You play it. You spend 25 hours playing it. You don't just watch the whole thing. So you can't give it a 0 because the game is not awful. The gameplay isn't awful. Everything, every aspect of the game, graphics, environments, gameplay, they're all absolutely spot on. It's just the story, and you can't give it a 0 for that. For me, I'd probably give it a 7. It doesn't spoil the whole game for me, but it's not, definitely not as good as the first one, but it's definitely still a really, really good game. But yeah, I mean, I'd give it a 7, and that's my honest opinion coming from someone who's played the first, absolutely loved the first, really wanted to play, and I was excited for the second. I pre-ordered it. I completed it Sunday. So yeah, I mean, that's my opinion on it. It 100% doesn't deserve 0s, but I think 7 is a reasonable score for the game. And I kind of feel they can't really leave it on 2 with that ending now. I kind of feel they have to do a 3 to put it right, just to put that story right. Whether they will or not is another thing. To be honest, I'd be happy with another, whatever game they go with next, the story they go with next. Obviously, I think Uncharted is probably finished now, unless they do another one with Chloe. Again, I think they'd kind of be a little bit risking ruining the whole Uncharted franchise. So I feel like they'll probably just move on to something else now. But I do think they should make a third one to at least get closure on that ending and kind of finish the series on a good note, because it was such a good series. I don't think it should end on the second one like that. Yeah, don't. That's my opinion on it. Don't forget to like and subscribe.